I used to joke that my mother had a favorite daughter. I stopped joking about it when I realized everyone else in the family already knew. My name is Hannah Collins, and for most of my life, I was the daughter my mother described as strong. My older sister, Olivia, was the one who was special. That distinction followed us everywhere. When Olivia got a scholarship, Mom threw a dinner party. When I graduated with honors, Mom said, "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I knew you'd manage." When Olivia wanted a new car, Mom helped her with the down payment. When I needed money for college, Mom told me I should learn responsibility and take out a loan. I remember sitting at our kitchen table when I was 19, staring at the financial aid forms while Olivia sat across from me, showing Mom pictures of an expensive apartment she wanted. "You should take it," Mom told her immediately. "But it's expensive," Olivia said. "You deserve to live somewhere nice." I looked up. I could really use some help with tuition. Mom didn't even look at me. "You're smart, Hannah. You'll figure it out." I did figure it out. I worked 2 jobs, took classes during the day, and studied late at night. I graduated without asking my parents for another dollar. Olivia, meanwhile, changed majors twice, dropped out for a year, and eventually married Daniel Carter. Mom called it finding herself. Whenever Olivia made a mistake, there was always a beautiful explanation. Whenever I made one, there was a lecture. Still, I kept trying. I convinced myself that maybe Mom didn't love Olivia more. Maybe Olivia simply needed her more. That explanation became harder to believe as the years passed. By 34, I had built a quiet life for myself. I had a decent career, my own house, and enough savings to feel secure. I wasn't rich, but I didn't owe anyone anything. Olivia's life looked different. She and Daniel lived far beyond their means. They had expensive vacations, designer furniture, and a house that seemed impressive from the outside. Mom was incredibly proud of them. "They're building a beautiful life," she would say. I knew better. I just didn't know how bad things had become. Then one Tuesday evening my phone rang. It was Mom. I almost didn't answer. "Hannah," she said, and her voice sounded strange. Not angry. Not disappointed. Scared. "What happened?" There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "I need you to come home." I sat up straight. "Why?" Another silence. Then Mom said 6 words that changed everything. "Olivia has lost everything." At first, I thought she meant Olivia had lost her job. I had no idea that she meant something much bigger. And I certainly didn't expect what Mom would ask me to do next. Because after spending 34 years choosing Olivia over me, my mother was finally going to choose me. Not because she suddenly understood my worth, but because she had nowhere else to go. I drove to my parents' house the next morning. The entire way there, I kept replaying Mom's words in my head. Olivia has lost everything. I had spent years imagining what it would take for my mother to finally need me. I had never imagined it would happen like this. When I walked through the front door, I immediately knew something was wrong. Dad was sitting at the kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. Mom stood by the window staring outside. Neither of them greeted me. "What happened?" I asked. Mom turned around. She looked older than she had the week before. "Olivia and Daniel are in serious financial trouble." I sat down. "How serious?" Dad finally spoke. "They're bankrupt." I stared at him. "What?" Mom hurried to explain. Daniel had invested heavily in a business opportunity. When it started losing money, he borrowed more to keep it alive. Then he took out additional loans using their house as collateral. Instead of telling Olivia the truth, he had hidden the growing debt. When the business collapsed, everything came crashing down. Their house was being repossessed. Their savings were gone. Their credit was destroyed. And there were creditors demanding money they didn't have. I looked at Mom. "And you?" Her eyes dropped. "I helped them." Of course she had. "How much?" She hesitated. "Almost everything." Dad closed his eyes. Mom had emptied a large portion of her retirement savings trying to rescue Olivia. Then she had borrowed against the house. When that still wasn't enough, she had sold investments. All to protect her favorite daughter. "And now?" I asked. Mom's voice cracked. "Now we're in trouble too." For a moment nobody spoke. I couldn't decide whether I was angry or simply exhausted. "You told me for years that Olivia needed you more than I did." Mom looked at me. I know. You told me I was strong. I know. You told me I could take care of myself. Tears appeared in her eyes. I know, Hannah. I stood. I think you finally understand what those words meant. She walked toward me. I didn't realize how unfair I'd been. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because I had waited my entire childhood to hear those words. And now that they had finally arrived, they felt painfully empty. Then Mom reached into a folder and pulled out several documents. We need help. I looked down. The papers showed debts, loans, overdue payments, and legal notices. Then I noticed something else. My name. I looked at Mom. What is this? She swallowed. We were hoping you could refinance your house. I felt my stomach drop. You want me to risk my home? We wouldn't lose it, she said quickly. We just need temporary help. I stared at her. For 34 years, Olivia had been the daughter who deserved everything. Now that she had nothing left, my mother had come to the daughter she had always called strong. I pushed the papers back across the table. I need time to think. Mom nodded. But as I walked toward the door, I realized something. This wasn't the first time my family had asked me to sacrifice for Olivia. It was simply the first time I was finally old enough to say no. I didn't go home and immediately say no. That surprised me. For years, I had imagined that if my mother ever came to me asking for help, I'd finally have the satisfaction of telling her exactly what I thought. But sitting alone in my kitchen that night, I realized revenge wasn't what I wanted. I wanted the truth. So I called Ethan. He listened without interrupting while I explained everything. When I finished, he asked, "Do you trust your mother?" I stared at the ceiling. I don't know. That wasn't my question. I sighed. No. Then don't give her your house. His answer was immediate. I knew he was right. The next morning, I called Susan Parker, an attorney I had worked with through my company. I gave her copies of the documents Mom had shown me. 2 days later, Susan asked me to come into her office. She had a thick folder waiting. Hannah, I think you need to see something. She opened it. The first documents were the loans I already knew about. Then she showed me bank transfers. Large ones. Very large. Most of them had gone directly to Olivia and Daniel. But there was something strange. Several payments had been described as family support. Susan looked at me carefully. Your mother didn't just use her savings. What do you mean? She transferred money from an investment account that appears to have been intended for retirement. I frowned. How much? Susan told me. I couldn't speak for several seconds. It was more money than I had earned in years. And there's another problem, she said. She slid another document toward me. Some of the debt isn't actually your mother's. I looked closer. Several accounts had been opened in Olivia's name. Others belonged to Daniel. But Mom had apparently signed guarantees for them. Susan leaned back. Your mother may have believed she was protecting your sister. Legally, however, she may have made herself responsible for debts that aren't hers. I felt something inside me change. Until then, I had thought my mother had simply made terrible financial decisions. Now I understood something worse. She had spent her entire life protecting Olivia from consequences. And Olivia had never been forced to grow up. That evening, I went back to my parents' house. Mom opened the door. She looked hopeful. I thought about what you asked, I said. Her expression changed. Please, Hannah. We don't have many options. I know. She waited. I won't refinance my house. Her face fell. But I will help you find another solution. She stared at me. Why? The question caught me off guard. Because you're my mother. Tears filled her eyes. But I'm not going to save Olivia. Mom looked away. She needs us. No, I said quietly. She needs to face what happened. Then Olivia walked into the room. She looked exhausted, angry, and frightened. For the first time in my life, my sister didn't look like the golden child. She looked like someone who had finally discovered that the world wouldn't always rescue her. She looked directly at me. So you're refusing to help? I held her gaze. No. She blinked. I'm refusing to save you. And for once, nobody in that house had an answer. Olivia stared at me as if I had slapped her. You don't understand, she said. I almost smiled. That sentence had followed me my entire life. Whenever Olivia wanted something I didn't understand. Whenever she made a mistake I didn't understand. Whenever Mom defended her I didn't understand. But this time I understood perfectly. I understand that you lost your house, I said. I understand that Daniel made terrible financial decisions. I understand that Mom spent her retirement trying to protect you. Olivia's face hardened. Then why won't you help? Because helping isn't the same as fixing everything for you. Mom stepped between us. Hannah, please. I looked at her. I'll help you find an attorney. I'll help you organize the debts. I'll help you find somewhere affordable to live. Olivia scoffed. So basically, you'll watch us struggle. No, I said. I'll watch you survive without destroying someone else's life. Daniel finally appeared from the hallway. He looked furious. This is unbelievable, he said. You're sitting comfortably in your house while your own family is about to lose everything. I looked at him. You're right about one thing. He raised an eyebrow. I am sitting comfortably in my house. Then I added, because I paid for it. Silence. Daniel looked away. That night, I went home feeling strangely calm. I expected guilt. Instead, I felt relief. For the first time, I had drawn a boundary. But the situation became even worse the following week. Susan discovered that Mom had one remaining asset that nobody had mentioned. A small property outside town. It wasn't luxurious, but it was completely paid off. I assumed Mom would sell it. Instead, she told me she wanted to give it to Olivia. I couldn't believe it. Mom, you need that property to protect yourself. I know. Then why are you giving it away? She needs somewhere to live. I stared at her. She has a husband. Daniel can't afford another place. That's not my problem. Mom's voice became sharp. She is my daughter. And I'm your daughter too. The room went silent. Mom looked at me as if she had never considered the obvious. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. I've spent my entire life accepting less because Olivia always needed more. Mom whispered, Hannah, no, let me finish. I took a breath. You taught me that being strong meant needing nothing. You taught me that asking for help was selfish. You praised Olivia for surviving things you never made her face. Mom began crying. I never meant to hurt you. I know. That was the hardest part. I didn't believe my mother was evil. I believed she had convinced herself that loving Olivia more was the same as loving her better. Then Mom said something that changed everything. Your father and I have already signed the papers. I froze. What papers? The property transfer. To Olivia? Mom nodded. I felt my chest tighten. Then Dad walked into the room holding a second envelope. His face was pale. Hannah, he said. There's something you need to know. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a copy of a document I'd never seen before. And the moment I read it, I realized my mother had been hiding something from me for years. I stared at the document for what felt like an eternity. It was an old life insurance policy. My name was listed as the beneficiary. I looked at Dad. Why is this here? He sat down heavily. Because your mother changed the policy years ago. I looked at Mom. She wouldn't meet my eyes. How many years ago? 8, Dad said. I felt confused. Why would she make me the beneficiary? Dad took a breath. Because she knew Olivia would eventually get everything else. Mom finally spoke. I thought I was being fair. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You thought giving Olivia everything while secretly leaving me an insurance policy was fair? She shook her head. You don't understand. I laughed bitterly. That's what everyone always says. Dad looked down. She believed Olivia couldn't survive without her. And what did she think about me? Neither of them answered. I already knew. They thought I would survive anything. The document wasn't a fortune. It was enough to help, but not enough to solve the family's financial disaster. Still, it explained something. My mother had known for years that her favoritism was wrong. She had simply tried to compensate for it privately instead of changing her behavior. And that somehow hurt more. Then Susan called me. Hannah, I found something else. My stomach tightened. What? There may be a way to protect your parents' remaining assets. I listened carefully. Susan explained that some of the debts could be challenged, because Mom had signed documents without fully understanding the financial obligations. But there was a catch. We need your mother to cooperate. I looked at Mom. She will. But I was wrong. When I told her, she refused. She wanted to protect Olivia. Again. She could be sued, Mom said. She already has debts she can't pay. She'll lose everything. I stared at her. Mom, she's already lost everything. Mom shook her head. I can't let her face this alone. I finally understood. This wasn't about money anymore. My mother wasn't addicted to helping Olivia financially. She was addicted to rescuing her from consequences. As long as Mom could save Olivia, she could pretend she was still a good mother. But every rescue pushed Olivia deeper into disaster. And now my parents were being dragged down with her. I stood up. If you won't cooperate, I can't help. Mom looked terrified. Hannah, please. I've offered you everything I can without destroying my own life. She began crying. I wanted to hug her. I really did. But I couldn't keep sacrificing myself just to make my mother feel less guilty. So I left. 3 days later, I received a phone call from Olivia. I almost didn't answer. When I did, she didn't yell. She didn't insult me. She simply said, Hannah, I need to tell you the truth. I sat down. What truth? Her voice trembled. Daniel didn't lose all the money by himself. I felt a chill run through me. What are you talking about? There was a long silence. Then Olivia whispered, I helped him. My heart sank. And what she told me next changed everything I thought I knew about my sister. Olivia didn't speak for several seconds. Then she finally said, Daniel wasn't the only one making those decisions. I closed my eyes. What did you do? I signed some of the documents. How many? I don't know. Olivia. She started crying. Almost all of them. I sat silently. She explained that Daniel's business had started losing money nearly 2 years earlier. Instead of shutting it down, they had borrowed more and more money, convinced that one successful contract would fix everything. But there was another problem. Olivia had been spending money too. Designer clothes, expensive vacations, jewelry, restaurants, things she couldn't afford. Every time Daniel warned her, she told him not to worry, because Mom would always help. And Mom did. Do you know how many times Mom paid our bills? Olivia asked. I swallowed. How many? I stopped counting. Of course she had. Then Olivia said something I didn't expect. I thought you were Mom's least favorite because you didn't need her. I frowned. What? You never asked her for anything. You never cried to her. You never made her feel important. I felt a lump in my throat. So you think this is my fault? No. She immediately started crying harder. I think I was selfish. That was the first time Olivia had ever admitted it. She continued. Mom made me believe I was special. Every time something went wrong, she fixed it. I thought that was love. I didn't answer, because I understood exactly what she meant. My mother had created this situation, but Olivia had accepted it. Then she told me the worst part. Mom doesn't know everything. My stomach dropped. What doesn't she know? Daniel took out another loan. How much? Olivia whispered the amount. I couldn't breathe. It was enormous. Where did he get that money? I don't know. Olivia, you need to find out. I already did. She hesitated. He used Mom's property as collateral. I stood up. What? He forged some documents. I felt my blood run cold. Are you sure? Yes. I immediately called Susan. She told me to bring every document we had. The next morning, Olivia and I sat together in Susan's office. It was the first time in our adult lives that we had sat on the same side of a table. Susan reviewed everything. After nearly 2 hours, she looked at us. There may be criminal implications here. Olivia began shaking. What happens to Daniel? Susan didn't answer immediately. That depends on what the evidence shows. Olivia looked at me. For once, she didn't ask me to fix it. She didn't ask Mom. She simply said, I'll tell the truth. I nodded. Then I'll stand beside you. She looked surprised. Why? Because telling the truth is the first thing you need to do without Mom rescuing you. That afternoon, we went home and told our parents everything. Mom looked devastated. But this time she didn't immediately defend Olivia. She couldn't. The evidence was too clear. Then Dad asked a question nobody had considered. If Daniel used the property as collateral without permission. He stopped. Susan looked at him. That may mean the property isn't legally transferable to Olivia. Mom's face went pale. The house. The last thing she had planned to give her favorite daughter. Even that was no longer safe. And for the first time, Mom finally understood the terrible truth. Her endless attempts to protect Olivia hadn't saved her. They had brought all of us to the edge of collapse. The next few weeks were the hardest our family had ever experienced. Daniel was investigated for the forged documents. Olivia had to cooperate with the investigation and admit how much she had known about the financial situation. My parents had to sell several remaining assets just to deal with their debts. And for the first time, Olivia couldn't call Mom and make the consequences disappear. First, Mom struggled with that. She would call me every few days. Can you talk to Olivia? Can you help her find a lawyer? Can you loan her some money? I kept giving the same answer. I'll help her make good decisions. I won't make them for her. Eventually, something changed. Olivia found a small apartment. She got a job. Not a glamorous job. Not one Mom could brag about to her friends. But Olivia went to work every morning. She started paying her own bills. She stopped buying things she couldn't afford. And slowly she began changing. One evening she came to my house. She stood on my porch holding a small box. I brought you something. I opened it. Inside was an old photograph of the two of us as children. We were sitting on the front steps of our parents' house. I was holding Olivia's hand. I barely remembered the picture. She looked at me. Mom always told me I was the daughter who needed protecting. I nodded. She never told me what that protection was doing to you. I didn't know what to say. Olivia sat down. I used to think you hated me. I didn't. I know that now. She looked at the photograph. I was jealous of you. That surprised me. Why? Because you could do things without Mom. She smiled sadly. You were free. I looked down. I had never thought of myself that way. I had always considered myself the forgotten daughter. But Olivia had seen something different. You know what I finally realized? She asked. What? Mom didn't make me strong by protecting me. She paused. She made me dependent. I felt tears in my eyes. For years, I had wanted Olivia to understand what she'd done to me. Now she finally did. Meanwhile, Mom was struggling with her own reality. She had lost most of her retirement savings. The house was being sold. The property she had planned to give Olivia was tied up in the legal dispute. And Robert had finally stopped covering for her. One night Dad called me. I think your mother needs you. I sighed. What happened? She finally admitted something. What? Dad was quiet. She said Olivia was never the daughter she loved more. I waited. She was the daughter she was afraid of losing. That sentence stayed with me. The next day I visited Mom. She looked completely defeated. I ruined everything, she whispered. You made mistakes. I chose Olivia over you. Yes. She started crying. I thought you would always forgive me because you're strong. I sat beside her. I am strong. She looked at me. But being strong doesn't mean I don't get hurt. Mom nodded through her tears. Then she reached for my hand. I don't expect you to forgive me. I squeezed her fingers. Good. She looked surprised. I need you to understand something, I continued. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life punishing you either. Mom began to cry again. I want something different. What? A relationship where you don't have to earn my love. She stared at me. And for the first time in my entire life, my mother didn't compare me to Olivia. She didn't call Olivia special. She didn't call me strong. She simply said, I love you, Hannah. And somehow those 4 words meant more than anything she'd ever given me. A year passed. It wasn't a perfect year. Our family didn't magically become happy again. There were still debts to pay, legal problems to resolve, and old wounds that sometimes reopened. But things were different. Mom moved into a smaller apartment. She had to learn how to live without constantly rescuing Olivia. Dad started making decisions for himself instead of simply agreeing with Mom. And Olivia? She changed the most. She kept her job. She paid her bills. She stopped asking Mom for money. She even started taking financial classes in the evenings. One Saturday, Olivia came over for dinner. She brought a cheap bottle of wine and a homemade dessert. Mom laughed when she saw it. "That's certainly different from the gifts you used to bring." Olivia smiled. "I'm trying to stay within my budget." Everyone laughed. It was a small moment, but to me it meant everything. After dinner, Olivia and I sat outside. "I owe you an apology," she said. "You already apologized." "I know, but I never really said it properly." She looked at me. "I spent years benefiting from Mom choosing me. I knew you were being treated differently, but I pretended not to notice because I liked being the favorite." I appreciated her honesty. "I can't change the past," she continued. "No, but I can change what I do now." I smiled. "That matters." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "What is that?" She handed it to me. Inside was a check. I stared at it. "Olivia, it's not much. You don't owe me money." "I know." She smiled. "This isn't repayment." I looked at her. "Then what is it?" "It's the first thing I have ever given you without Mom paying for it." I couldn't help laughing. I accepted the envelope, not because I needed the money, because I understood what it represented. Later that evening, Mom pulled me aside. "I have something for you." I shook my head. "Mom, you don't have to give me anything." "I know." She handed me a small box. Inside was the photograph of me and Olivia as children. The same photograph Olivia had given me. Mom had another copy. On the back, Mom had written something. "I should have chosen you because I loved you, not because I needed you." I read it twice. Then I hugged her. Not because everything was forgiven. Not because the past didn't matter. But because I had finally stopped waiting for my mother to become the woman I needed when I was a child. She could never give me those years back. But she could choose differently now. And so could I. For most of my life, I believed my sister was the lucky one because Mom always chose her. I was wrong. Olivia wasn't lucky. She was protected from consequences until there were no consequences left that anyone could protect her from. And I wasn't the family failure. I was the daughter who learned how to stand on her own. The daughter who survived without being rescued. The daughter who finally understood that love isn't supposed to be measured by who gets more. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop begging someone to choose you. Choose yourself instead. And that was exactly what I did.